before you rewatched Red Dragon, what did you remember from it? What really stayed with you
Obviously, it
before?
was. Yeah, sorry. Obviously, it was because I'd read the books prior to it. Had you actually seen mine, the original movie with William Peterson, I think it was,
Manhunter. Yeah,
Manhunter? Had you ever seen that before?
I've seen it like a very long time
Yeah,
ago.
same.
But yeah, I think it's a good comparison. It went on my sort of watch list. After we're like, oh, okay, let's rewatch Red Dragon. So yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah. So obviously they did Silence, because Silence was the second book in the series. Red Dragon was the first book in the series. And
Yeah.
it was really interesting to see how it was obviously Anthony Hopkins' character. He did it. He was a little, especially the scene where he's talking to the lady on the phone and goes, "I'll dance at your wedding." He's a lot more softer and sinister. He had those moments where it's like it's Anthony Hopkins doing the bad guy. He's a lot sinister in this one that I felt.
Yeah. He is. Yeah, he had a few movies, I guess, to really get into the character, and he got an Oscar for Silence of the Lambs as well.
Right.
Was yeah, it's his character. It's actually very hard to imagine anybody else playing it. Even though Hunter, I think Brian Cox is doing a pretty reasonable job actually, at doing it. But yeah.
And I'd forgotten that there was no outdoor scenes for Hannibal either. He's always in the prison in this one, so he's nowhere else but the prison. I'd completely forgotten that.
Yeah. Just the beginning. When you see him when he gets caught, actually, when he's
Of
at
course,
the
yeah.
concert and stuff. But yeah, otherwise he's always incarcerated, in the jail.
How did you find that Hannibal was too casual in those moments? It was almost jarring to see him, in casual clothes and had a ponytail.
Yeah, it was. I'm not sure I really enjoy the first scene, the introduction. It's yeah, I think the ponytail was a bit of a cop out of well, he's doing it years after Silence of the Lambs, but in the timeline that's supposed to be before, and that's even supposed to be before the Heart of Red Dragon is actually. So they tried to make him younger with the ponytail, which is a bit weird. And I don't know if the movie actually started with just the opening credits where you have the articles about there was the shout out between the cop and the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist survives and the cop is in remission in the hospital in critical condition, blah blah blah. That might have been better. Actually, you could have done without the first scene with the concerts and the dinner and the stuff. So really going straight into it, so it doesn't look a bit. Yeah, I don't know. It felt a bit out of place and a little bit awkward when I rewatched it. This first scene compared to the rest of the movie, which I think is very good.
Yeah, and for something that was supposed to be set in 1980, 1983, everything felt too modern. You look at it and you go, I don't I grew up in the 80s, so I remember, the outfits being so.
Yeah, it's a good point actually, because the movie, when was it released? Was it in 2000?
2002.
2002. Yeah, I actually thought that it was set in the 2000s. I actually didn't even think that it was set before, because it doesn't look like 80s or 90s. It looks like the year 2000s. Yeah, interesting.
So it was obviously made 10 years after Silence of the Lambs as well. So yeah, I think Silence of the Lambs had more of a. It was set in 1992, but they struggled with this one to make the setting correct.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, what I really remember like before I rewatched it, was the imagery. Like, a few things, like, I still remember the opening credit when you see the book that has all those like newspaper clips and the pictures, the weird pictures and the broken mirrors. And when he goes in front of the mirror with the fake teeth, and it's like he's smiling and he's got like, sort of the whatever, like, on half of his head. That was very creepy. I remember when, like, this big room where Hannibal is sort of walking around, and it's like he's got 1 hour of exercise, and he's like, tied with the, like, with the rope in the back with the stuff that goes in the ceiling, and there is this big, like, sort of line around it, do not cross, that you don't see straight away. You see it like, in an after shot when they shoot it from above, and Will is just like next to him and they are talking. I really remember, like, that scene, because it's such a wide, like, kind of thing. Is like, did they really build a complex that big just for him so he can exercise? It was like, so I remember, like, the when the journalist Philip Seymour Hoffman, when he's like, rolling down the hill and he's like, on fire. I really remember that. I remember the stuff with, like, with the Polaroids, is like, do you see? Especially because South Park, like, sort of did a parody of that. So that was a bit more like, funny, but I was like, yeah, I remember that. I really remember it. It stayed with me, and I hadn't seen the movie for a good 5 years at least.
I remember, because obviously now that he's gone, he did a really. I quite like Philip Seymour Hoffman as an actor. So he just was such a chameleon. He could just nail every role. So he got that creepy kind of journalist.
He does the sleazy, like, journalist just very well. That all the actors are all good. All right, let me know what you think of that. I really like Edward Norton. He's one of my favorite actors, and he does a good job. But the way that he's playing Will, and I'm not sure if it's like his acting choice or it's because of the way it's written, but I don't know if you saw the show Hannibal.
Yes.
With,
Big fan of that
Darcy, and he's playing Will Graham, and I think I haven't read the books, but I think in the books and even in Manhunter and especially in Hannibal, Will is this sort of like tortured soul that could snap and could go to the other side and become a killer. And I thought in Hannibal, it's very well done. And Hannibal is actually using that weakness to, like, gaslight him and then, like, sort of use him and toy with him and everything. And I really like that in the show. But in Red Dragon, the way that Norton plays it, you feel that Will is always in control. Yes, they are saying he has that sort of gift, or he can really put himself in the shoes of a killer and everything, but it doesn't really ring true in the way that he plays it, because he's like, nah, this guy is a cop. This guy is in control. You can't see him going to the other side. He's too grounded in reality. And that's sort of like one of my major sort of like so thing with the movie. I don't know what you think.
It didn't really play on, like, what's his name? Jack Crawford mentions, you're the one that can read the room, you can read crime scenes, and it's not really touched on. It's just he's just another investigator. It's just it doesn't really, like, in the show Hannibal, it really shows how he breaks down a crime scene, but in the movie he just walks in and he just investigates. It doesn't really go that extra step, which I thought it could have. It had the time to do it.
One thing I really like in this one is the girlfriend, the blind girl.
Yes, I actually wrote that. Emily Watson was my most valuable, my MVP. Like, she's not blind. 2, she's not American, and she just absolutely nailed that role.
Yeah. Definitely, she does it very well. And I really like the character, and I really like how she's interacting with the Tooth Fairy, because you almost want her to save him. She's
Yeah,
like sort of like his salvation from all that is going on in his head and why he's killing and why he's the Tooth Fairy. And you can feel that she can make him see the light. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. But
yeah. It's very different ending to Manhunter as well, because in Manhunter they do have a shootout. Red Dragon and the police have a shootout with each other, but in this one, I preferred the ending to this one actually. So how it ends.
yeah, it's actually it's a very good. I mean, fake sort of like endings. They can be overdone and they can be like, ugh, just a gimmick. But it was actually very well done in this
Yep.
one. Or you're like, because you buy into the romance and how she is a good influence on him, you really buy that he can kill himself and that can be the ending.
Yeah.
But then there is like, the second ending, which I actually really like as well.
And it gave Mary Louise Parker something to do as well. So I felt that I really felt that they wrote all the characters quite well, gave everyone good screen time, especially the very minor, but almost tertiary characters like Molly. Molly, I think her name was.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's I don't know, the top of my head, when I remember Manhunter, I think they had more time with the family. I mean, they have a bit of time, especially with the wife. You don't really see the kid in Red Dragon, and I really like Mary Louise Parker. I think she's great, but maybe they could have done with a little more of them interacting as a couple, giving her a bit more as well than just jumping in, like, the last scene and kind of saving the day. Yeah, but good enough.
Yeah. And they built up to it as well, because obviously there was the shooting scene where he's teaching how to shoot when they're at the ranch. So I think that was.
Cool.
Right. Well, all right. Talk about a couple of things I liked. I liked the camera work in it. They had quite a lot of close shots. I know how you mentioned that you liked that about Silence of the Lambs with Hannibal, how it was always framed quite close up for him. I noticed they did that here. I mentioned earlier about the deep focus. They could have used deep focus a little bit better, where it was obviously one character in the foreground, one character in the background. I've seen other John Frankenheimer does that quite well. He does the deep focus.
Yeah,
they did good use of reflections. I've noticed they do reflections quite a bit where characters are talking to each other.
Yeah,
so I thought that was pretty clever.
It's good. I'm amazed that the director is the one who did Rush Hour.
Yeah, I know, right? Brett Ratner.
And I remember when the movie came out, I didn't know what to think of it, because I was thinking this one came out after Hannibal, right? Yeah, it came 1 year after Hannibal. I didn't like Hannibal, really as a movie. And then when this one was released, and I mean, Hannibal had Ridley Scott as a director, and I just thought it can't make the movie work. And here you're doing like Red Dragon with the guy who did Rush Hour. That's gonna be bad. And surprisingly, it's actually very good.
Yeah. What else? I thought there was going to be some mistake. I thought there was a mistake in it. There was a part where, obviously, again, the settings, because I was born in '83, so I was born the year it was made, and so there was a scene in the movie where they were using power windows. I'm like, that's got to be a mistake. You couldn't have had power windows in 1983. Power windows in 1940.
Oh.
So I was way off.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you to pick who did the score?
I actually don't know who did the score.
Danny Elfman.
No, really?
Yeah, Danny Elfman did the score.
Actually, you know what? The score is amazing.
Yeah.
Now it's actually very memorable. Like, I'm not gonna hum it or anything like that, but yeah, you tell me the score and I have it in my head, like,
Yep.
like this. It's almost like Halloween, like John Carpenter.
Yeah.
That is a very memorable, like, right. It's Daniel.
Yeah. So while the credits were playing, I'd like, because how I put my computer set up, it's in another room from the lounge room. So I got my headphones to my wife and said, "See if you can guess who the score is." And she's just like 30 seconds in, she's got Danny Elfman. I'm like, "Yep."
Oh, that's so good. And they had a lot of, like, very good people, like, in this movie. No wonder it works. It's good.
I think that pretty much covers all my notes, I think. How about you?
That was pretty much it. Yeah, I was saying, like, now that I'm rereading it, it's just, with the character of Will, especially when I was saying it sounds very hollow when Hannibal tell him, "You caught me because we're alike," and I'm like, no, that you're reading, like, the line from the book or from the stuff, but it just really doesn't ring right.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because this sort of, like, the first time that well, it's not the first time if you are taking away the intro, but, like, the first time during the call of the movie where Will and Hannibal are meeting and he's behind the glass. And as you're saying, they're really, like, shooting in close-ups, and it's actually very fast-paced editing. It's almost like a ping pong, like, match, and they go very fast in the way that they are talking to each other and who is on top, who is in control of the conversation. It's quite tense. It's very well done up to that point where he's telling him, "You caught me because we're alike," and it's like, well, no, that failed because it just doesn't. It doesn't work with his character. It doesn't work with the way they wrote it or the way that it's acted. And that's that's a shame. I really like, actually, something else I really like is how Hannibal is really set on hurting Will, and he's going to such great length, like, to do that, to find his home address, to send, like, a serial killer after him and his family. He's just like, it makes my skin crawl. It's just like, well, you came across this person that is a nut job and is very smart, and he can hurt you from behind bar in, like, the most biggest security prison, like, you can think of, and he still manages to do it. That's actually it's quite scary. And it was very well done.
Yeah, apparently Anthony Hopkins, he wanted this to be, one, the last time he would play Hannibal, and two, wanted to play him that you don't really feel bad, you don't feel sorry for him. He didn't want to be an anti-hero. He wanted to be the antagonist. He wanted to be the bad guy.
Yeah, which is I think it's a good call, because that's one of the reasons that Hannibal didn't really work for me. The movie is a bit too, almost like, moral character, like, the one that he's gonna go after, that he's gonna kill, that he's gonna eat, is always like, it's not something petty, like, oh, he played, like, wrong in the orchestra and it ruined my ending, so I'm gonna eat him. It's really, they did something very bad and I'm gonna go after them. But at the end, when he's sort of like, in the handcuffs with Clarice, and it, like, sort of like he sticks a ponytail in the fridge, and then he's like with the cleaver, and you think that he's gonna cut her end because that's what would make sense, but he cut his. It's just like weird, too much, too. You don't. It's like you don't like Clarice. You don't love Clarice. You respect her.
Yeah.
Because you like messing with her head.
Yeah.
That's what you're about, and that's why it's like didn't work for me. Hannibal.
Yeah, and the book. Have you read the book of Hannibal?
No, I only read The Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, because I watched the movie first and I saw it when I was a teenager, and it scared me, but I loved it so much. Then I read the book, but I only read The Silence of the Lambs. I
Do you
haven't
know
read the other ones.
Do you know how it ends? Hannibal the
Yeah,
book.
Hannibal? No.
Clarice and Hannibal end up together.
No way. All right. Well, then
Yeah.
it's a problem with the source material then.
Yeah.
Cool. Any last thought?
I would probably give it, if I was. I've kind of paused my writing at the moment because I've been a bit too busy, but I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I give it a 4 out of 5 as well. Yeah, for how visually memorable it is, and for how creepy it can be in a very clever way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it deserves.
All right.
Cool.